And welcome back to my channel, and if it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Simone. Today I'm going to do a video on the fetal ejection reflex. If you are new here, I've been making videos on childbirth and labour and doing my pregnancy updates with my third baby, so I will put links down below to some of these videos if you want to check them out. And if you are new here, if you like the content, then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The reason I wanted to make a video on this was I'd read up on it a lot, and after having an emergency C-section with my first, I really wanted to experience this involuntary pushing, and where the baby, you don't have to push the baby out. And when I tell people that, they think, they're like, what do you mean you didn't have to push the baby out? So that's why I wanted to talk about this in this video. So the term fetal ejection reflex was first used in the 1960s. I'm just reading from notes here, when Niles Newton was researching the effect of environment on the birth of mice. Extremely high levels of adrenaline during early labour can trigger the labour to slow down, and at the end of the labour it can do the opposite effect where the baby is delivered quickly. And that's where the term fetal ejection reflex comes from. So this surge of hormones triggers strong rapid contractions which move the baby from the uterus into the birth canal, and the pressure in the vagina stimulates what is called the Ferguson reflex, which is the uncontrollable expulsion of the baby. And this happens when the nerves in the pelvis are stimulated as the baby descends through the birth canal. So in one of my previous videos I talk about how sometimes healthcare professionals tell the woman not to push, but if the baby's pressing on them nerves, it's really difficult to try and even stop it, stop the baby from coming down. Signals are sent to the brain to release more oxytocin, resulting in 2 or 3 strong contractions, and the baby is born quickly and easily without voluntary pushing from the mother. So when you see these one born every minute or documentaries or movies, and the woman's going really purple in the face and the doctor's telling her to push and then stop and pant and things like that, when this happens you don't need to do that. You literally, I've heard women say this before, and you're breathing the baby out, you're breathing, and then the body's doing what it needs to do, and it's getting the baby out itself. So when does a fetal ejection reflex occur? A renowned French obstetrician, Michael Audin, began using the term in the 1980s in reference to women in labour. He states it can be triggered by a sense of danger late in labour, when it's more productive to get the baby out than for labour to stop, as would happen in early labour if there was a threat. So in one of my other videos I talk about how if the hormones are all flowing nicely at home and then you move to the hospital and you're feeling stressed out, or there's interventions and things like that that can slow the labour down, and I've experienced this. So he also says it can also happen spontaneously when the mother has experienced a completely undisturbed labour and she feels completely safe and supported and has privacy and is not disturbed by noise and bright lights. Well, in a lot of labour wards there's bright lights, there's observations, you might have a cannula fitted, you might have the the band what monitors the fetal heart rate and things like that, which all can hinder the fetal ejection reflex. The article states that it's rare to see a fetal ejection reflex in hospital setting because a woman is often disturbed in labour by routine interventions or procedures. It is possible to have one if the interventions are threatened, or you feel like your body might be feeling like it's safer for me to get my baby out. So to be honest, with my last birth I wonder whether that's what happened with me, because they kept trying to pressurise me even though there was nothing wrong with the baby, and I'd said in my birth preferences, just leave me in privacy. They just kept, oh, do you not think we should pop the waters, and do you not think we should do this and do that? And I was so worried about having another emergency C-section, and I wonder whether some of these things I'd got so far and I was already like 8 centimeters dilated when my body just like sped things up just to get the baby out, because I was fearing at that stage. So during active labour, the woman may appear to be in a sleep state between contractions, and there could be a pause for a few minutes or even an hour just before the birth reflex happens. This happened to me, and I think that's why one of the midwives was like freaking out a bit and thinking that labour had stopped, because in the end I gave in and said, okay, right, pop the waters, because she said they was bulging and she thought the baby was going to come down. So after that, I went to lie down and I was just chilling out, and then she went off duty, and she said to me after, if I'd have known that your baby was going to come in a few hours later, because it just took a couple of hours after that, I would have stayed, but it looked like you was going to be there for ages. So when I read this, I thought, wow, it's crazy, because this is what happened to me. I was in a really chilled out state, and then things started to ramp up. So this can be concerning for providers, and they might want to check the baby's heart rate, and they should do this quietly and try not to bother you too much. The birth reflex can come on quickly. A huge surge of adrenaline floods the mother's bloodstream and wakes her out of this trance to make her alert for the arrival of the baby and ready to protect the baby. Signs a woman is in this state: a woman might have expressed fear, be overwhelmed by it all, it's too much, can't do it, and much more. So I've talked about that, about the transitional stage, and how to recognise it, and that usually that means that the baby's ready to be born. In the study it says to get the woman into an upright position or lean forward, as in because the intense and the involuntary contractions occur, there's no like pushing effort on the part of the mother. The baby, usually in 3 or 4 expulsive efforts, the baby will just come, and that's what's happened with me with my home birth, with my last baby as well. It's just like you just feel this like I can't even explain it, not pushing, you just feel this like the uterus pushing the baby down, and then it's like I chilled out for a little bit, and then it happened again, and I breathed through it, and I think it happened about 4 times, and then the baby came out. So it says here that the care providers might reassure the woman or say to push or not push, and I've got another video on about the pushing. All of this can impact the reflex, as it gets the woman to use the thinking part of her brain instead of just trusting her body. So for the fetal ejection reflex to work, it's just a case of just trusting your body and not having to be coached on how to breathe or how to push. Your body will just know what it needs to do. And the study goes on to state that the woman should be aware of the impact hospitals and the procedures etc. can impact the normal physiology of birth, and how even though a woman is not in danger like an animal in the wild, the body can react as if it is in imminent danger, and then that can obviously prevent the fetal ejection reflex. So I really hope that you found this video useful, and if you have any children and if you've experienced this, or if have you been coached in like to push, what was your experience? I'd be really interested to know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.